Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you a first look at Tier 7 Premium Japanese Battleship Hyuga. I think I'm getting that right. There's always something with the funky Japanese accent marks that I always mess up, so if I'm getting it wrong, oh well. But for now, we're going to call it Hyuga. Now, Hyuga here is basically the second Ise-class battleship that Wargaming is bringing into World of Warships. Ise herself currently being tested as a hybrid battleship, where kind of the stern turrets have been removed. The back half of the ship is basically a little flight deck. I've done a previous video on Ise before. I'll link it up here if you're interested, but this is a more pure battleship. This is obviously representing the Ise-class had she not undergone such a conversion. And so, yeah, we'll have a look. Now, one of the things I want to point out, the Ise-class was a follow-on to the Fuso class. The two probably visual changes you're going to note, the super crazy mega ultra large pagoda mast is a little smaller here. This mast is more reminiscent of what you would see on Tier 7's Nagato, for example. And as a result, we'll see this in a minute, Hyuga's detection is not nearly as high as Fuso's. The other thing is that I want to point out, the ship has very similar lines to Fuso, right? Like, it's the same basic deck design. She is a little wider in the beam, right? And you would expect that might translate into more torpedo protection, but it actually doesn't, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So let's have a look through the ship, shall we? Survivability, as we head into this, 60,700 hit. I'm sorry, 60,700. I'll spit it out in a minute. Hit points, and then a 26% torpedo protection. This is really, really good, kids. Hang on just a minute here. I'm trying to finish sorting this out. There we go. Not best in tier, not worst in tier, right? Like best in tier, you'll still be looking at sign up, for example. Sign up in Nagato, 65 and change, basically is best in tier, or Hood, I should say, 67 and change. So there's a lot to like. 60,000 is not to sneeze at, though, and 26% torpedo protection is pretty solid for the tier. It's not Caracciolo, which is 42%. That is your leader, but it's middle of the road, right? So she's got fairly average hit points, fairly average torpedo protection, which is a little surprise, right? When you look over the ship, when you look at the beam compared to Fuso, her torpedo protection is actually worse than Fuso, which surprised the hell out of me when I actually stopped and checked that out. I'm like, man, this looks like they took Fuso and strapped bigger torpedo bulges on it, and yet her torpedo protection is lower. Maybe that's a tier balancing thing. I don't know, but it is so. Armor layout. Now, you can kind of see very clearly those torpedo bulges, right? They're pretty obvious here. But if you strip those away, you can start to get a sense of the armor scheme of the ship. 190mm upper belt here, main belt 299mm. This is very comparable to Fuso, very competitive for the tier. Most battleships in this tier are in the 300 plus range. This is the same as Nagato, the same as Hood, essentially, the same as Caracciolo. There are battleships with thicker belts than this. But, once you reach a certain, flat-on perspective, it's not really going to matter all that much. From an angled point and for long-range fire, this is more than sufficient. 26mm extremities here, okay, bow and stern. And let's turn those off real quick, actually, and have a look at her Citadel spaces. Let's just turn everything off but the Citadel. Now, this is where it starts to get... look how weirdly this Citadel is shaped, right? Look at this, right? She's kind of got like almost a Nagato style cheek going on right here. Almost. I mean, not Nagato, Yamato style cheek. Not directly, but close, right? And then you've got the nice, standard Citadel through the middle of the ship, and then this other magazine, and the stern magazine, and then you've got this like extra wide, like the engine spaces have this narrow part up forward, and then this super wide part kind of back aft. I don't know, man. This is a very oddly shaped Citadel. And she's even got some weird plates kind of like sticking out here. You see? Let me get the mouse on it. All right, there's one. Like 90 degrees to the advance of the ship, not like on the perpendicular to the long axis of the ship. Amidship, she's got Citadel plate just randomly sticking out. Very awkward. Very, very awkwardly shaped Citadel. She has kind of this gentle turtle back. It's only 32 mils. I don't know that this is going to do a lot for her in brawling situations. I think it will, but to me, I'm not sure I'd rely on it, right? I'm not sure I'd rely on it. Remember, typical Japanese battleships they're not brawlers. Like generally, Japanese battleships are not brawlers. Their armor schemes are not optimized for it. These are not Germans, right? So I would not rely on the Citadel, the turtleback there to save you in kind of brawly situations. But if you find yourself in one, you might be able to lean on it a little bit just to kind of see how it goes. Maneuverability and concealment. 25 knots there, yeah, not amazing. Definitely on the low end for the tier. I mean, she's not California, thank God. But I mean, 25 knots is pretty pedestrian. This is Nagato speed, basically the same. A little faster than Fuso, even, believe it or not. 750 meter turning circle, 15-second rudder shift. These are typical for the tier, let's say, like very normal. She's going to handle, if I had to pick an analog off the list, Nelson is pretty close. Florida is pretty close, although I think she has less overall length than Florida, so that will impact her handling. So there's some ships in the game that if you've driven, it's a mid-tier battleship. I mean, it's not going to handle amazing. It's not what she does. 16.3 kilometer detection there. You see that's with her fancy premium camo. Base stock detection looking like actually these numbers have changed. They've nerfed her detection since I went through and worked on my spreadsheet. But bottom line is she is stealthier than Nagato. Base detection, but it's not going to be huge. Let's actually take this camo off. I want to know what this number is now, since obviously they have changed it and I have not looked at it recently. So 16.8. So yeah, so she is a little more stealthy than Nagato, not significantly. You're going to get her down full stealth rig, 14.7. That's nothing to write home about. So she's not hiding from anybody, basically. She's not hiding from anybody. Just the way it is, and you wouldn't expect her to, especially with that pagoda mast. It is better than Fuso, though. She is stealthier. She is stealthier than Fuso. So, main battery. Let's talk about this, right? This is why you're here. It's a battleship. These are Fuso's guns. Same turret layout, same guns, same gun caliber, right? So these are 356 millimeter guns, 45 calibers long, with a 26-second reload. And that's noteworthy because this is actually even faster than Fuso. So, one of the things we've talked about on some of the other 14-inch armed battleships at this tier. Let's talk about California or Florida, the recent examples of Wargaming releasing 14-inch armed battleships at this tier, is that you expect those guns to reload reasonably quickly, right? You expect that. But California and Florida don't. They just don't. Hang on a minute, I'm going to boot it up here. It's 34 seconds for California, and I think Florida was nerfed to like 33 seconds or 32 seconds or something, and you're like, ugh. So you're gimping my gun caliber, and then you're gimping my gun reload? Like, why? This feels terrible. Hyuga here, for her gun caliber, yes, it's not amazing, but she does at least get a better reload. Other thing worth noting, that 45-second turret traverse, yes, that is terrible. However, it is still better than Fuso. It is still better than Fuso. The Japanese have discovered a little bit of a new variant of WD-40 that has been applied to these turrets. They do traverse faster than Fusos. What's different here? Shells are the same. Range is shorter. She does have less range than Fuso. But, I mean, do you really need 26 kilometers of range at Tier 6? No, you really don't. You don't really need 20 kilometers of range here at Tier 7 will be useful. You'll get use out of these from time to time. So the range is actually just quite solid. To me, it's a nice selling point of the ship. One of the other things I want to point out that you can't see in port here is the Sigma. Of course, Fuso's guns are... Fuso's a shotgun, right? Fuso's a 1.5 Sigma. It's not very consistent, throwing a pattern inside its own dispersion ellipse. Hyuga here is a 1.8 Sigma. This is much more typical of a battleship that you enjoy firing the guns on. So these guns will feel more consistent throwing patterns towards the center of that dispersion ellipse than Fuso's. I already like that about this ship. I'm intrigued by the ship. Fuso has long been one of my favorite battleships, and this ship kind of takes a lot of what she does and maybe makes it a little better, and I'm genuinely curious to try her out. Secondary guns are not what she's going to do best. You see there, 5.6 kilometer range, not amazing. She does have these little 5-inch double barrel mounts. She's got a few of these floating around. In Fuso's hull, these casemate mounted guns are 6-inch, 152, basically 6-inch, 152 millimeter guns. Here on Ise and Hyuga, these are 140 millimeter guns. So they're, what is that, 4.5 inches basically. They're not too bad. I mean, they'll fire a little faster, or they should nominally fire a little faster. I didn't check the reload speed. She has a lot of these. She's got 16. She's got 8 running down each side of the ship. So if you find yourself in a secondary brawl, the range of these is not that amazing, so you're going to be really, really close. You might get some use out of them, but I wouldn't rely on them. This is not a ship that I would consider a secondary build on. I don't think the range is there, and I don't think the reload for the barrels you're getting with is there. 8 seconds here on these guys. I said 4.7. I meant 5.5 inch. Whatever. Anyway, and then 5 seconds here on the 5 inchers. So yeah, not. This is not really a focus of the ship. AA defense, in typical Japanese fashion, also not a focus of the ship, right? Putting up a couple of flak puffs here at max range, and then her continuous AA aura. She does have a long-range aura, and in true Japanese style, she doesn't have a mid-range one. She has only a short-range aura to go with it. So you're looking at, again, those aforementioned 5-inch double barrels. Those are dual-purpose guns. Those make up her long-range aura. And then she has a lot of the typical Japanese 25mm barrels here for her short-range aura. Not amazing. I mean, you know, you'll get some DPS out of this. She'll shoot down a plane or two, but it's not something you're going to be excited about, right? It's just, not anything to write home about. Consumables, let's have a quick check. See here, we have a typical Battleship Hyuga repair party here to go with damage control party, and she does have aircraft facilities on the stern that allow her a spotting aircraft. So if you need the Fuso range, all you need to do is push a button and bam, there it is, Fuso range. She cannot mount catapult fighter. You see here, she only gets to mount spotting aircraft. No fighter cover for this ship. So that's kind of where we're at with Hyuga. Basically, I look at this ship as, I mean, she is an Ise-class. She is an improved Fuso. This ship is an improved Fuso. The turrets traverse better. The gun, the dispersion, the sigma within the dispersion ellipse is more accurate. The guns reload faster. It is the same shell. It's the same gun, guys. So if you like driving Fuso, if you really like Fuso, this is essentially literally just what the Ise was, an improved Fuso class. I'm curious, right? I'm really genuinely curious to play this ship. I feel like matchmaking is going to work against her. Anytime I take 4-inch guns 14-inch guns into a tier 9 battle, I feel a little gimp. It doesn't mean that you can't slap cruisers around, because you can, but it does mean that when you're up against opposing battleships, you are at a decided disadvantage, and you have to really try and find a way to maneuver that engagement into something that you can win, and it's not always going to be tough. And it's not always going to be easy. This ship will see Musashis, guys. This ship will have to fight Musashi and Georgia and Iowa and oof. So, yeah, it's the life of a Tier 7 these days is rough in World of Warships, but I feel like this one's got some potential, especially if you're a big fan of Fuso in the tech tree. Anyway, guys, there you go. There's our first look at Hyuga. Wash your hands, be safe, and I'll catch you next time.